Madison Square Garden, Tuesday night, Eastern Conference Finals, Game 1. Now, I need you to picture this. The most electric building in professional sports, the place that has seen it all, heard it all, held its breath for all of it, is quiet. Not getting ready to erupt quiet, done quiet. The scoreboard says Cavaliers 93, Knicks 71. 7 minutes and 52 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Cleveland is up 22 points on our floor in the Eastern Conference Finals. The analysts are already writing the post-game notes. The Cavaliers fans are already celebrating. The headline is drafted. The narrative is set. Knicks fall flat in Game 1. Cavaliers take control of the series. And then Jalen Brunson calls a timeout. He gathers his team into a huddle. He says something. We don't know the exact words. Nobody outside that circle hears it. What we do know is what happens next. And the Knicks go on a 44-11 run. 44-11. They erase a 22-point fourth quarter deficit, force overtime, and win 115-104. The largest comeback in New York Knicks franchise history. And after the game, sweating, exhausted, still catching his breath, Brunson walks up to the microphone and says this: "We just kept chipping away. We knew we weren't going to get it all back in one possession. We kept fighting and believing. We just found a way." Now, I could talk about that comeback all day, but that is not why we are here. We are here to talk about what happened in that huddle. Down 22, before a single thing had changed, before one bucket went in, before the crowd woke back up. The moment before the moment. Because I promise you, what happened in that circle has nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with you. Welcome back to Eyes Wide. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I am Craig Palmer. I am the host. And if you are new here, I am really glad you found us, and I hope that you stay. What we got here is real stories, brutal lessons, zero fluff. That is what we do. And if you have been rolling with me for a while, you already know what this is, and I appreciate you more than you will ever know. Seriously. Every listen, every share, every time you send this to someone in your world who needs to hear it, that matters. That is how this thing grows. So thank you. Now, before I get into today's episode, real quick, if this show has ever given you something useful, a framework, a push, a moment of, yeah, that is exactly what I needed to hear, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe. Leave a rating. Share this episode with one person, just one. That is all I'm asking. It costs you nothing, and it means everything to me for where this show is looking to go. All right, let's get into it. So this is episode 26. We are moving right along, and I want to start by saying I am a Knicks fan. Now, I'll have you know that I am recording this Sunday, right after Game 3. So Game 3 was last night. They whooped the Cavaliers' ass in Cleveland. I knew it was going to happen. It was close a little bit in the first half, but I just knowing that the Knicks were a second half team, it didn't seem all that likely that Cleveland was going to be able to hang with them through the third and definitively through the fourth. So I've been a Knicks fan my whole life. The best thing, I mean, there's so many good things about this current run, but something that I've truly enjoyed is that as I've obviously posted about the Knicks, and I tend to stay on the content that involves the Knicks right now more than anything else. Social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok tend to start to send me more of those types of clips or reels or videos. And so I've been getting to see a lot of the 90s Knicks, and man, did that bring me back? The Patrick Ewing, the John Starks, the Allen Houston, all that stuff was just so legitly good. And I remember being a kid and being so into that team. I mean, even still today, I will drop a Larry Johnson L anytime something really strong happens because I just adored that team. So as I said, I've been a Knicks fan my entire life, and this team has sucked for a while, and it's been really hard. I think ever since I moved out to California, Los Angeles, and now in Orange County, the Knicks have been irrelevant, really, just up until about 5 years ago. Really, it's the coming of Jalen Brunson that's saved it all. But I mean, they've had some teams, but not like this. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of teams like this in NBA history. So again, I don't want to start alienating too many people right here, but that's just the way I feel. So Tuesday night at Madison Square Garden, I didn't get to watch this one real time. I'm going to admit it. Again, no BS. I cannot lie. I didn't get to watch this one real time, and it's really tough to admit to that and say that. But I did get to watch the replay. And even on a replay, I was locked in. And it was really difficult not to keep fast forwarding just to see the outcome. And I'll tell you, I just about didn't watch it because they were behind by so far. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I stuck with it. I really wish I could have experienced that in real time because it would have been even that much sweeter. But that fourth quarter is really what I want to talk about, and because I couldn't stop thinking about it at all. And even though I'm a fan, I really wasn't even thinking about it. It wasn't affecting me as a fan. It was affecting me as a leader. Because what Jalen Brunson did in that huddle down 22 is one of the cleanest illustrations of what elite leadership under pressure I have ever seen. And I've been in this game, sales, medtech, building commercial organizations for over 25 years. I'm not going to tell you the exact number of years because it's just going to make me feel sad about myself. But I know what it looks like when someone leads in the dark before the results show up. I know that feeling because I have lived it. I've had to deal with being slightly more of a believer than anyone else around, and how difficult it is to convey that belief when all the chips do seem stacked against you. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm special because of it. I'm just going to say that I have a blindness that occurs with belief, and it's all I know how to live. And so I just kind of go for it. And eventually, when enough people start to believe with you, you start to do some pretty remarkable stuff. And that is where the magic truly happens. And on Tuesday night in MSG, that is exactly what you got. Jalen Brunson did it Tuesday night in front of 120 million people watching on ESPN. And today, I'm going to break down exactly what he did, and even more importantly, how to use it. So let's go. Now, I mentioned in the opening, I want to discuss the moment before the moment, because we all saw the magic happen. But how do you get that magic started? And here is the thing that I want you to understand about what happened Tuesday night, is that comeback did not start when Jalen Brunson made his first big shot in the fourth quarter. It did not start when the Knicks forced a turnover. It didn't start when MSG woke the F back up and the building started to shake again. It started in a huddle. Down 22, when the scoreboard said it was over, when nothing had gone right yet and there was zero evidence it was ever going to. That is the moment before the moment. And here is what Brunson's message in that huddle actually was, based on everything he and Coach Mike Brown said after the game. It was not, "We are going to win this." It was not a guarantee. It was not manufactured confidence. It was not a locker room speech from a movie. It was simpler and harder. Get a stop. Play faster. Be better defensively. Chip away, one possession at a time. This is exactly what it is like when you are building something from nothing and you haven't had success yet to chase, or there's no one out there doing it that you can replicate and follow. You just have to figure out how to get that first stop. You just have to figure out how to get that first bucket, and then two, and then another stop, and then another bucket. And you start to build upon itself. That's all you can do. You can't chase. You can only build on yourself. And that's why this was such a profound occurrence that happened on the hardwood, on the biggest stage at MSG. And so I feel 100% compelled to talk about this. So Coach Brown said after, right? He said it perfectly after the game. He said, he's our guy. He felt we needed to play faster. He felt we needed to be better defensively. He made sure we knew, and our guys responded. Not a speech. It's not a speech. It's just a recalibration. And here is the thing I need you to sit with right now. You see, most people wait for the scoreboard to change before they ever change their behavior, before they truly get belief. And elite leaders have that belief, and because of that, they change their behavior first. The scoreboard follows. That sequence right there, changing the behavior and having the scoreboard follow, that is the whole game. Now think about your own world for a second. Think about the last time things went sideways, a quarter behind pace, a deal that nearly died, a territory that's gone cold, a transition that you didn't see coming. What did you do? Did you wait for something to fully break right before you started acting like someone who was going to make it right? Or did you call your own timeout in private when the scoreboard was really ugly and nobody would have blamed you for accepting the loss, and decide what the next play was going to be? Because I have been in both modes, and I can tell you exactly which one produces a 44-11 run and which one produces another quiet building. The difference is not talent. It is not circumstance. It is not the market or the territory or even the team around you. It is the decision made in the huddle, down 22 before a single thing has changed. That decision is the whole game. No rip today, by the way. No rip. Not getting ripped. I am so sorry. I couldn't find, full disclosure, I couldn't find where Rip was, so he may be in the dishwasher. Really sad, but we're going to do it anyway. Now I want to transition real quick, and I want to talk about Cleveland. I want to talk about the Cavs, because while the Knicks comeback is great, that does not happen without a Cavaliers collapse. And if you want to actually use what happened Tuesday night, you need to understand both sides. Now, the Cavs were up 22. Playing great basketball. Donovan Mitchell had 29 points. They were controlling everything. And then they stopped. They went into protect the lead mode, stopped attacking, pulled back, went from playing to win to playing not to lose. They shot 22% over the final 7+ minutes. Mitchell, 29 points, the best game of his playoff life, went scoreless the final 13 minutes. He fully disappeared, did not ask for the ball, did not attack. Now, I want to be careful here because Donovan Mitchell is a great player. Everybody knows that. The guy is freaking awesome, and he's from New York, so shout out Donovan Mitchell. But this is eyes wide, and we do not shy away from the hard observation. That collapse, I have seen it before. I have seen it in medical device sales for 25 years, and I know exactly what that is. It's the big box mindset. The big box mindset, those big, massive companies that we all know that all give out the pullovers and the lapel pins and want to make you feel so important and like you're really part of something great. The big box mindset. I want to let you know that there's a fundamental difference between a rep who has had to scratch and claw to build something from nothing and a rep whose entire career has been about protecting what somebody else has already built. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I'm going there. This one's probably gonna have some fallout, but whatever. Think about the rep who spent their career at Medtronic or Stryker, J&J, walking into rooms with the best brand in the space. The deepest pockets, the longest relationships, the clinical evidence that took decades to accumulate. Their job, and I mean this with respect, their primary job was to not lose market share. That is a real skill. Do not underestimate it, but it is a fundamentally different skill from what it takes to build something. Because when you have spent your entire career playing with a lead, when the 22 points were there before you even showed up, you never developed the muscle for what happens when the lead disappears. You never had to. Nobody asked you to come from behind. The system was designed to protect the advantage, not create one. And then the moment when the scoreboard shifts, the reimbursement changes, the competitor moves in, the market turns, the numbers go sideways, you do what Cleveland did. You stop asking for the ball. Now contrast that with the rep who started at a company nobody had ever heard of, who walked into a hospital with a therapy that had no reimbursement, no market awareness, no established clinical pathway, who got told no, not once, not 10 times, but hundreds of times, who had to build belief before there was evidence. who had to earn every single point on that scoreboard because nobody handed them a single one. That rep does not know how to coast. They literally never learned it. Comfort was never an option because the scoreboard never got comfortable. That is grit that does not come from a training program. It does not come from a sales certification or a product launch kit or a regional sales meeting with a motivational speaker. Shout out motivational speakers. But it comes from being down 22 points for real, in real situations with real stakes, and figuring out how to chip away. You cannot teach someone to come from behind if they never had to. You can only hire people that already know how, or be able to be really good at deducing or figuring out, bringing in those individuals that have it inside of them, that are looking to break free and get things done. You can tell the difference. If you ask the right questions, you can tell the difference. Now, when I build commercial organizations, and I have done it from $0 to $50 million with a therapy that had every structural reason to fail, the first question I ask about a candidate is not what company they came from. It is what they built when they had nothing to build with. Because that tells me everything I need to know about what they will do in the fourth quarter when it gets hard. The Cavs had everything. The lead, the momentum, the crowd noise was gone from the other side, and they still lost. Cleveland was protecting a lead. Brunson was building one. Do you know the difference? Make sure you're hiring accordingly. How we doing? You feeling this? You feeling the Knicks? We got any Knicks fans out there? Now, I want to tell you something about the moment when I was down 22. The year was 2021, and we had made the decision as a company to go public, or at least get after it, seek it. The company wanted to IPO, which means that the commercial strategy I was about to be responsible for was no longer just about growing revenue. It was about growing revenue and then convincing Wall Street that we could grow more revenue, and we had a path to greater profitability. Bankers, analysts, institutional investors, people who do not care about your belief in the therapy or how hard your team is working or what you think is possible. They care about whether the numbers are real and whether the person running the commercial organization can actually deliver them. And we had some real problems to solve. A poor reimbursement environment, an expensive therapy, physicians and hospitals with long decision cycles. We are talking months, sometimes even longer, just to get someone to start. Every structural headwind you can imagine. We were not walking into rooms with the Medtronic logo on our scrubs. We were walking into rooms asking people to believe in something that had not yet been proven at scale. We were down 22 before the quarter even started. And I had to build a strategy and the belief that would make Wall Street believe that we could go on a 44-11 run. Now, about halfway through one of our early quarters, I am on a mountain bike ride, top of a hill. Just me in the dirt and whatever I was trying to sort out in my head that afternoon. And my phone rings, and it's my CEO, so sure as heck I'm going to answer it. And we're talking for a little bit, and then he just drops this on me. Kind of honesty that you respect, but also hits you like a truck at the same time. And then he let me know that the board had some real concerns. And those concerns are around my overall experience in the role of being a commercial leader. And they weren't sure of my ability to actually pull this off because they weren't getting the right visibility. They didn't have the right clarity into what the vision was and how we were going to execute to it. He went on to say that they're actually discussing some names for my replacement. People that might be better suited for what was ahead. They were looking to replace me. And here's the thing about that moment that I truly want you to hear. I didn't argue. I didn't try to justify my existence. I didn't defend myself. I didn't panic. I didn't spiral. I wanted to, but I didn't. I understood the assignment. Now, the moment before the moment is always private. The comeback, that's public, as we've discussed. People see the 44-11 run, but nobody sees the hill. Nobody sees what's sitting in front of you when it's there. Now, that evening after the ride, I had to let it sit. I went home, and I built something. I started trying to figure some things out. Not a response to the board, not a defense of my record, not a political play, no Game of Thrones that I needed to play here. I built a system. I sat down and I engineered from scratch the commercial accountability framework that would become the simple system. Near-term leading indicators, weekly activity metrics tied directly to financial outcomes. I developed a blueprint for a structure that removed the guesswork from whether we were on pace, that made the gap visible and closable every single week, not just at the quarter end when it was too late to do anything about it. I built it that night because I needed it that night, not as a concept, as a weapon. And then I went to work. I had to get it dialed. I had to build it. I needed to convey it. And I needed to get people to believe enough in it that they would execute to it. Because you can have the greatest blueprint in the world, the greatest plan. If you can't get people to execute to that plan, you will never know what it is you have or had, because you will never see the fruits of that plan. No chance. And building belief is exactly what I did. I got together those individuals that I knew would be able to embrace this idea and these concepts, and I knew would be ready to go to work. The result? 13 consecutive quarters of earnings delivery. Every single one. A successful COVID launch, a NASDAQ IPO, and revenue growth that people shopping my replacement could not have imagined when they were having that conversation. And I want to be clear about something, because this is important. The system did not save me. The decision saved me. The decision made on the top of that hill in the 5 seconds after my CEO told me my job might not be mine, to not fold and not run and not deflect, but to go home and solve the problem. That was my huddle. The system was the 44-11. Now, right now, someone listening to this is getting a phone call they did not ask for. Not necessarily on a mountain bike, maybe. But the content of the call is the same. Someone is telling you directly or indirectly that your ability to pull this off is in question, whether they say it directly to you or their body language says it. That's what you're getting told. What you do in the next few hours is everything. Not what you say. Not how you respond to the call, which a lot of people think that's the time that you dig in. You have to really show what you're made of. It's about what you do when you get home, when nobody is watching, when the scoreboard is really ugly and there is no audience for the decision that you're about to make. Understand the assignment and then go build the system that makes it undeniable. All right, how are we doing? We doing all right? All right, we're getting there. We're almost done. Let me give you something to walk out of here with. You know how I like giving you things, some takeaways from the episode. So let's talk about 3 things. 3 specific things that separate the people who will go on a 44-11 run from the people who just lose the damn game. Now, I have watched high performers navigate down 22 moments for 25 years. I've lived a few of my own. This is the pattern. 1, shrink the frame. Shrink the frame. You see, the human brain cannot execute on a 22-point deficit. It's just too massive. It's too big. It's too abstract, too far from where you are standing right now. But it can execute on the next 90 seconds. So Brunson did not stand in that huddle and talk about winning the series. He didn't talk about winning the championship. He talked about one stop, play faster, be better defensively, this possession right now. You see, when you are really behind in a quarter, in a roll, in a launch, the worst thing that you can do is keep staring at the full scoreboard. That is why my approach to business, the simple system, is so powerful for salespeople. Looking at what's right in front of you. What does this possession look like? How do we get one stop? How do we get 1 point? Setting yourself up for success, future success, that by just focusing on the end result, you will get lost every single time, because that gap paralyzes you. It's designed to. Your brain threat assesses, makes it seem unsurvivable. It's why you got to shrink the frame. What is the next call you need to make? The next conversation that moves the needle. The next week of activity that keeps you on plan, not the quarter, not the year, right now. One stop. Chip away. Don't try to get it all back in one possession. 2, stay in your identity. Now, here's what Brunson did not do in that huddle. He did not tell his team to become someone else. He did not blow up the offense. He did not panic reinvent. He asked them to be more of what they already were. Faster, more aggressive, more locked in. He called on their identity, not a new one. This is one of the most common mistakes I see from leaders under pressure. Things go sideways and they start shape-shifting. Change the message, change the standard, change the system, become someone else hoping a different approach saves them. It almost never works. I worked with a chief marketing officer at my last company, and he thought really high of himself. He thought really high of what he was bringing to the table with the sales team and the ability to sell the therapy. And I remember being halfway through a quarter that we ultimately nailed, by the way. But halfway through the quarter, he starts getting in the head of all the other executives that, the messaging is no good. That's why we're not able to track towards a successful quarter right now. And he convinces the CEO that he's the man to put together all this new, fresh messaging that's going to light up the specialists and get them more engaged and get them more wanting to prescribe our therapy. And it was a joke. He spent all this time and it did nothing. We still hit that quarter, not because of his messaging. We hit the quarter because we got together as a team in a huddle and we talked about getting faster. We talked about getting one stop. We talked about playing better defense and getting that first point. That's why we hit the quarter. The leaders who come back from deep deficits are almost always the ones who get more committed to what they already know is true about themselves, their processes, their standards, their system. They do not abandon their identity when it gets hard. They double down on it. That is exactly when they need it most. 3, they create belief before evidence. Now, this one is the hardest. I promise you, this one is the hardest, but it is also the one that matters the most. Brunson spoke it in the huddle before one bucket went in, before the first turnover, before the crowd came back to life, before there was a single piece of evidence that it was going to work. He committed to the belief before the belief was earned. That is the sequence, not see the scoreboard change, then believe. Believe first, chip. The result follows the belief. It does not create it. This is the fire inside, not a feeling you wait for, a decision you make. You see, most people want proof before they commit. They want to see a couple of buckets go in. They want the gap to close a little bit before they fully invest in the idea that it is closable. And that's completely understandable, but it's also exactly the wrong order. Champions commit before the proof. They lead before the evidence supports it. They believe before the scoreboard confirms it. Commit before proof. Lead before the evidence. Believe before the scoreboard confirms it. That is the sequence that produces a 44-11 run. And as I said, it's Sunday. Game 3 was last night. Cleveland got housed on their home court. And the Knicks are one win away from the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. Game 4 is tonight. I will be watching every second. And I hope you will be too. But none of it happens without a decision made in a huddle. Down 22, when the building had already gone quiet and the headline was already written. No external rescue, no lucky bounce, no basketball gods just happening to step in. A leader decided before anything else had changed that the game was not over. Nobody's coming to save you either. There is no timeout the universe calls on your behalf. Nobody notices that you are down and pulls you out of it. The huddle is yours. The decision is yours. The 44-11 run that follows, well, that's yours too. So before I let you go, what is your down 22 right now? What scoreboard in your life says the game is over? What situation has the building gone quiet on? And what decision are you making in that huddle? Not the comeback, not the highlight reel, not what it looks like on the other side. The decision right now, in private, before a single thing has changed. Make it and then start chipping away. Hey, one more thing before we wrap this up. If this episode landed for you, if Brunson's story hits different for you, if something I said today gave you something to think about or something to do, please share it. Tag me. Send it to someone on your team who needs to hear it. Post it on your story. Drop a comment and tell me where your down 22 is right now. I read everything. And those stories fuel this show more than you will ever know. I appreciate every one of you who have showed up for this. Genuinely, thank you for being here. And go ahead and close this the way I close every single episode. I'd love for you to say it with me, reminding each of you that this life is what you make of it. The future you is waiting patiently to meet the current you. Continue to work to find your tomorrow in today and keep the promises you make to yourself. Until we meet again, eyes wide, see everything. Goodbye.